And welcome to episode 5 of Talking Smarks here on AIM Student Radio, the way radio should be. I'm Josh, and we're not going to waste any time here today. The wrestling industry is on its head, and it has been over the last 24 hours or so I'll go ahead and dive right into it. Last night, the Wall Street Journal reports that WWE's board of directors is investigating a alleged secret $3 million hush pact that longtime chairman and CEO Vince McMahon, obviously known as the king of the wrestling industry, but it is alleged that Vince McMahon reached this settlement with a former WWE employee whom he allegedly had an affair with. The fact of the matter is, it's not so much, and this is per Vince's attorneys, the $3 million was not not out of company funds. However, this employee, while being let me go ahead and start that over. While this employee was allegedly having an affair with Vince McMahon, her salary was increased from $100,000 to $200,000. Bit of a pay increase, wouldn't you say? And allegedly, she was made to sign a non-disclosure agreement to keep everything under wraps, and it takes even more of a twist. Allegedly, she was also involved in an affair with Executive Vice President of Talent Relations, John Laurinaitis, or Johnny Ace, as many of us know him. This is unprecedented. Who knows what kind of effect this is going to have on WWE and the industry as a whole. They're more than likely not going to go down right away. They're just too big of a company. They have guaranteed contracts with several television networks and streaming services in the billions of dollars. They're not going away anytime soon. As to what'll happen to Vince and to Johnny Ace, who knows? This has been the wackiest year in professional wrestling, and that's saying a lot. Let me go ahead and read off just everything that has happened in the wrestling world just this year. Shane McMahon returned to WWE and got fired. Cody Rhodes, one of the founders of AEW, left and went back to WWE. Triple H was revealed to have a health scare that permanently ended his in-ring career. Tony Khan, the president, CEO, owner of All Elite Wrestling, bought Ring of Honor. Stone Cold Steve Austin had a main event match at WrestleMania. First one since WrestleMania 19 in 2003. Jeff Hardy left WWE and promptly signed with AEW. The whole MJF contract situation and the events surrounding the Double or Nothing Fan Fest, which, by the way, as at the time of this recording, we have not heard a thing about what's going to happen next for MJF. He hasn't been on TV the last couple of weeks. None of us know what's going to happen. Stephanie McMahon left WWE. Very unusual circumstances surrounding her departure. No one seems to really know the whole story. Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of a planned main event match on Monday Night Raw, and it is alleged at the time of this recording that Sasha Banks has been released from her WWE contract. No official confirmation, no official word from WWE, which makes sense. They have a whole other PR nightmare on their hands right now, folks. Jeff Hardy, I mentioned him earlier, left WWE, went to AEW, and was arrested on a alleged DUI charge this week. And to top it all off, the allegations currently surrounding Vince McMahon. It's only June 16th. This is unprecedented. This industry is crazy enough as it is. I don't even want to look at my phone right now while I'm recording this show because I'm terrified that something else is going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and stick to the original part of what today's show was going to be all about, and that's recapping last night's incredible AEW Dynamite Road Rager episode. So I'll go ahead and just dive right into it. This was from St. Louis. We kick off the show with Chris Jericho and Ortiz in a hair versus hair match. Obviously, a lot of storyline here. Ortiz was once part of the Inner Circle, which Jericho promptly disbanded to form the Jericho Appreciation Society, a faction of quote-unquote sports entertainers and not professional wrestlers. William Regal also sitting on commentary as, for the time being, Ortiz is temporarily aligned with the Blackpool Combat Club. We have the upcoming Blood and Guts match. The rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society comes out at ringside to back up Jericho. Eddie Kingston comes out to support his buddy Ortiz, comes out wearing this white ghoulish face paint, which tends to happen for a lot of Ortiz's more serious matches. And Ortiz wastes no time, charges the ring, attacks Jericho right away. In a kind of sickening spot, Ortiz gets suplexed off of the ring apron to the floor. Keep in mind, it's not that high of a drop. You're looking at about maybe 4 to 5 feet, but the impact is sickening. Keep in mind, these mats on the floor of the arena, they're not much thicker than maybe your average. They're just wrestling mats, and if you fall on them, you might not break bones, but it's still gonna hurt, and it had made a pretty sickening splat. Later on in the match, the Jericho Appreciation Society and Ortiz, and then Santana, Eddie Kingston, and Wheeler Yuta come out to brawl with the Jericho Appreciation Society, and they're just causing chaos all over the ringside area. Eddie Kingston comes in to help his buddy, hits the spinning back fist on Chris Jericho. Jericho kicks out, and then for the finish, what appeared to be Fuego del Sol, who is a very popular babyface, this means good guy, figure amongst the AEW fan base, appears to come out holding Chris Jericho's famed baseball bat, Floyd, and hits Ortiz. We think, wait, this can't be Fuego. Why would Fuego align himself with Jericho? Quote unquote. Fuego takes off his mask, and it's revealed to be none other than Sammy Guevara, who was also in the inner circle, and both Sammy Guevara and his real-life girlfriend, Ty Conti, have been teasing going heel, which means bad guy, for a little while now. They've definitely been drawing the ire from the crowd, and this appears to have cemented their heel turn. It looks like they've realigned themselves with Chris Jericho. Jericho wins, which means Ortiz has to shave his head, which he does so promptly. Doesn't try to get himself out of it, shaves himself. Meanwhile, Eddie Kingston grabs the microphone and screams at Jericho, "See, this is a man of his words." Ortiz is absolutely livid at this point, and he starts chanting blood and guts over and over again, just death glaring Jericho the entire time. Up next, we have the Wardlow versus 20 security guards in the class action settlement elimination match. The video package was a hilarious parody of like a Judge Judy intro, where we're shown the plaintiffs, who are all the security guards who have been manhandled by Wardlow over the last few weeks, as well as the defendant, which is Wardlow, massive human being, gets the Goldberg-like entrance, the crowd chanting Wardlow, all the way till he makes it to the ring. And this is just a quick it's a squash match. It lasts maybe 8 minutes because he has to eliminate 20 men. All the power bombs, all the humanity getting thrown around the ring. Such wow. Wardlow is awesome. They just got to keep pushing. Been there practically since day one. And please just keep this guy's momentum going. He's so hot with the crowd right now. After the match, Dan Lambert of American Top Team and current TNT champion Scorpio Sky are taunting Wardlow from the skybox, and it appears that Dan Lambert has help. Looks like he has Tyron Woodley and Matt Hughes, both esteemed MMA fighters, coming into the ring, and it appears that they're there to back up Dan Lambert and Scorpio Sky. Looks like they're going to go after Wardlow until Smart Mark Sterling, who is also aligned with American Top Team, ends up basically shoving Tyron Woodley, trying to be like, hey, get this guy. Tyron Woodley doesn't take very much kindly to this. Woodley then proceeds to grab Mark Sterling, throw him in Wardlow's direction for Wardlow to pick him up and demolish him with yet another powerbomb. Up next, we have the match of the night, in my opinion. We have Dax Harwood, who is arguably in the top 5 best wrestlers in the world right now, versus the IWGP United States Champion, the aerial assassin, Will Ospreay. This was an absolutely clinical match. Will Ospreay is a high flyer, but let's not forget he is also a very skilled mat wrestler, just like Dax. Styles make matches. This was beautiful in every sense of the word. I could go back and rewatch it right now, honestly, if I could have another TV in here. This lasted a good almost 20 minutes, I want to say, but this was just a great match. start to finish, both men bludgeoning one another. It finally ends with Will Ospreay hitting the hidden blade finishing move on Dax in kind of a sickening spot, because this is essentially basically a fully, how does this? Ospreay runs to his opponent and elbows him, looks like in the back of the head, and it looks sickening. Like, you got to know what you're doing. Like, if I try doing that, like, yeah, no, I'm in trouble. This was immediately followed by the rest of the United Empire faction coming out to bludgeon up Dax. This leads to Trent Beretta coming out to help out his buddy. He's been aligned with FTR as of late. Cash Wheeler, also the other member of FTR, comes out to help with the assist. Orange Cassidy makes his return after several months away, did suffer a pretty significant injury. Glad to see him back. And it was revealed later on in the broadcast that for the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, we are going to get Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States title. This is going to be bloody great. I honestly can't wait. And we're not done. There's so much left in this show. Up next, we have the long-awaited face-off, years in the making, between Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling, versus Jon Moxley. Keep in mind, these two men are going to be facing one another in the main event of Forbidden Door for the interim AEW World Championship. This match can go either way. It's literally been years in the making. Moxley just tearing into Tanahashi, letting him know, I've chased you everywhere and that there's more than just a belt on the line. Moxley wants to prove that he is truly the ace. This was followed by Chris Jericho coming out. I know what you're thinking. Wasn't he just out at the beginning of the show? Yeah, he was. He's back. Comes out with Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti. Lets Mox know he has his own bad blood with Hiroshi Tanahashi, and this is true. They had a pretty good feud going on back in New Japan. They had a match at Wrestle Kingdom a couple of years ago. Lets Moxie know, hey, this is my spot. You better move out the way or I'm going to take it from you. This is later on followed by Lance Archer and Desperado, two members of the Suzuki-gun faction, the faction led by the most terrifying man in all of pro wrestling, Minoru Suzuki, coming out to attack both Mox and Tanahashi. Both members are introduced as the latest members of the Jericho Appreciation Society. And we get another match for Forbidden Door. We are going to get the team of Jericho, Minoru Suzuki, and Sammy Guevara teaming up against Wheeler Yuta, Eddie Kingston, and Umino. This is going to be bonkers. We still have the Eddie Kingston versus Jericho rivalry going on here as well. These men are going to tear one another apart. As this is all going on, Tanahashi and Mox are still getting jumped, leading to Eddie Kingston, Ortiz, and Wheeler Yuta coming out to make the save. Up next, we had a video package where Darby Allin calls out both members of the Undisputed Elite still for taking out Sting a couple of weeks ago, calls out Bobby Fish. Looks like on Rampage they're going to beat the daylights out of one another. Followed by yet another backstage promo with Tony Schiavone and Toni Storm. Tony and Tony. Toni Storm is making her case to be the next AEW Women's Champion. She's got a lot of momentum going for her. I could see this going on. This feeds in later into the broadcast, keep in mind. Up next, we have another qualifying match in the All-American Championship, All-Atlantic Championship, tournament, as we have All Ego Ethan Page taking on Miro. Dan Lambert comes out also because Ethan Page is part of American Top Team as well. You get a lot of Dan Lambert and a lot of Chris Jericho on this particular episode of Dynamite. In one pretty memorable spot, Miro's character is the Redeemer, praise to his God. Ethan Page mocks Miro, puts his hands in that classic prayer position, says, "Pray to me, Miro." It backfires as later on in the match, Miro ends up winning, locking Ethan Page in the game over submission. After that, Ethan just had no chance. Up next, we get the announcement that on Rampage this Friday night, we are going to get Jon Moxley and Dante Martin. This should be a fun match. High Flyer versus a Brawler. This should be brilliant. Up next, we have Britt Baker versus Toni Storm And these two honestly work great together. I could see them wrestling each other a couple more times and I'd be happy. Obviously, Rebel and Jamie Hayter are there in Brit's corner to back her up. Later on in the match, Thunder Rosa comes out to back up Toni Storm just to kind of level the playing field a bit. In part of a scary bit, but it looks like Brit was just playing possum with all of us. Britt Baker ended up taking a pretty hard hip attack on the bottom rope. Like, you see some very real whiplash, and for a second there you couldn't tell if it was actually part of the show or if Britt was actually hurt, because she did look legitimately dazed. Either that or she's just a much better seller than I've given her credit for. But thankfully, at the end of the match, Toni Storm does end up picking up the win, keeping the momentum going. And this also leads to, later on in the broadcast, it being revealed that at Forbidden Door, for the AEW Women's World Championship, it will be Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm. Up next, we have another backstage promo where it's revealed that on Rampage this Friday night, Jade Cargill will be taking on Willow Nightingale from Ring of Honor. Willow Nightingale's had a couple of appearances on Dynamite and Rampage, and she's impressive. A powerhouse, just this young, happy, bubbly personality. This should be pretty fun to watch. Followed by Hangman Adam Page, the former AEW World Champion, coming out, letting the crowd know that at NJPW Dominion, Okada did lose the IWGP World Heavyweight title to Jay White. However, this does not faze Hangman. He still wants Okada. Cole comes out, says, no, there's no way. The only person who should even be facing Jay White should be me, because it's supposed to be about the Undisputed Elite and Bullet Club. Jay White comes out, hits the surprise attack on Hangman, hits him with the Blade Runner finishing move, and we get a little bit of a twist here. Jay White says he is going to defend the title at Forbidden Door, but it's not going to be against Hangman or Adam Cole, baby. So who's it going to be? Okada? Who else? Only one way to find out. This has me intrigued, unless there's some other tomfoolery involved in this and we get some kind of four-way match. It's time for the main event. That was my poor attempt at trying to do Mark Henry's bit from Rampage. I apologize. We have the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express ladder match for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Keep in mind, this was originally supposed to be the Hardys versus the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express in a 3-team ladder match. Unfortunately, due to Jeff Hardy's recent arrest and suspension from AEW following his alleged DUI, the match was quickly changed to just a 2-team ladder match. But honestly, I can't help but to think what this match would have been. It's hard to tell. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. However, the Bucks and Jurassic Express more than made up for it. This was an absolute spot fest, top to bottom. You did have some good storytelling moments in there. The Young Bucks actually paying homage to actually one of the classic Hardy moments in some of the classic TLC matches from the late 90s, early 2000s. We had I call it the 4 table spot, where one team will go and set up 4 tables, 2 stacks of 2 on top or right next to the ring. And when you see this, it's almost guaranteed that somebody is going to go flying off a ladder and through all 4 tables. Seeing this, I was a little 8-year-old kid watching WrestleMania again. This was an absolute spot fest. Like I said, this match was absolutely insane. It ended up being Luchasaurus that took the spill through all 4 tables. However, it looks like he went through 3 of them. It appears that one of the tables up on top, he sort of bounced off of, and one of the tables on the bottom stacks didn't actually break. So that had to have been a pretty painful fall there, because he didn't have all the tables to go through to break the fall. The Young Bucks end up winning the match, grabbing the belts, and becoming the first 2-time AEW World Tag Team Champions. I can't help but to feel that this was supposed to be the Hardys moment. Maybe give them just a short reign, given the state that they're in right now and the injuries that both men appear to be nursing. Let me clarify this. Matt and Jeff can still go in the ring, but they are very much showing signs of their age. Keep in mind, we've already had some terrifying spots involving both Hardys over the last couple of years. At Double or Nothing, Jeff Hardy was allegedly knocked out, and he doesn't remember the vast majority of the match. At All Out 2020, in a pretty terrifying spot involving a genie lift and a table, Matt Hardy's head went splat off the concrete. It is, as much as I love seeing the Hardys in ladder matches, I mean, it's what helped catapult them to the superstardom level that we all know them to have. Every time I see them in one, I get more and more terrified as the years have gone on. Just this ladder, or the no holds barred match between Jeff Hardy and Darby Allin on Dynamite a couple weeks ago, that was terrifying to see. So as to whether it was always planned for the Bucks to win, I have no clue. Part of me feels like it was supposed to be the Hardys so that way they can get their moments and perhaps give them a short reign, but just to get that moment of them capturing the AEW World Tag Team titles. But the night is not over. Christian Cage comes out at the end of the match to check on his boys. Luchasaurus obviously still just laying on the floor after going through 4 tables. Jungle Boy looks like he's limping. It appears that Christian at first goes to help Jungle Boy out of the ring, and it finally happens. The long-awaited heel turn. Christian Cage hits the kill switch on a injured-looking Jungle Boy. Keep in mind, Jungle Boy's family is at ringside, and it gets even more heartbreaking. Christian goes ballistic, looks under the ring for 2 chairs, gets back in the ring, and hits the dreaded concerto on Jungle Boy. And that's how the show goes off the air. We have a heel Christian Cage. Heel Christian is the best Christian. He can make an entire arena hate him. Oh my goodness. This is going to be a great run. The crowds are going to be so vocal, so angry. I'm living for this. And that's the first part of this doubleheader episode of Talking Smarks that I'm doing. So a little bit of context here. I was taking my mother to see the doctor on Tuesday, so I didn't make it in to record Tuesday's episode. That was this past Friday's AEW Rampage. There it went. So this was the June 10th episode of AEW Rampage. This was taped after the Dynamite show at the Cable Dahmer Arena in Kansas City. We open up with Jake Hager versus Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston is pulling, and Jake Hager, both are pulling double duty. They were both in the Eliminator Battle Royal at Dynamite, which was taped a few hours beforehand. So they're pulling double duty. I give them both props. Eddie Kingston wins. There's a lot of near falls. Eddie picks up the win after 2 spinning back fists. Keep in mind, for the vast majority of Eddie Kingston's opponents, it takes 1 to finish the job, but Jake Hager is no ordinary human being. Up next, we had a backstage segment with Tony Schiavone, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter, as well as Rebel. Britt is calling out Tony, letting her know, no, you can't just demand spots around here, and says if anybody is going to be the next person to win the AEW women's title, it's going to be her. Britt Baker has still quite a bit of momentum. She hasn't been without the championship for very long. It's only been not even 4 months yet. She did win the Owen Hart Foundation tournament on the women's side of the bracket, so we'll see what happens. We had a video package with Ortiz hyping up the hair versus hair match, which I did go ahead and discuss on the Dynamite episode. Up next, we had the in-ring debut of Satnam Singh comes out to the ring, comes out with Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt taking on a team of locals. This was just a quick squash match just to show off just how big and powerful Satnam Singh is. According to the announce team, he is 7'4", and he looks every inch that size. He is a very big man. Up next, we had another backstage segment with Lexi Nair looking for the team of Hookhausen. That is the team of Danhausen and Hook, the cold-hearted, handsome devil. Danhausen shows up in, looks like one of those little John Deere gators, talking about how they spent their money from winning their matches on these vehicles. drives away. Now the question on everyone's mind, where's Hook? Hook comes in a four-wheeler, doesn't say a word. Keep in mind, Hook doesn't speak a whole lot. Just looks at Lexi, looks at Lexi, just drops the sunglasses he was wearing, and just drives off. Hook is the coolest guy on earth. Up next, we have the match of Red Velvet and Chris Statlander, former friends turned bitter enemies when Red Velvet decided to align herself with Kiera Hogan and Jade Cargill as part of the baddie section. Statlander has been getting increasingly more vocal and positive reactions from the crowd. Her gimmick has been reworked, and I love this new gimmick she's got. I've been a big fan of hers since she showed up in AEW. Her original gimmick was the galaxy's greatest alien, an extremely strong and powerful woman, but who was allegedly from the Andromeda Galaxy. And I loved this gimmick too. However, it didn't seem to really resonate a whole lot with the fans. She didn't speak a whole lot, and it always seemed like when it came to the bigger matches, she'd almost always lose, and it was kind of a bummer. Her gimmick was reworked, so now she's out to prove that she is more than a woman. Gets a brand new theme song, brand new look, brand new gear. She's awesome. The match kicks off with Red Velvet trying to dive through the middle rope to try to get Statlander with the surprise attack, and Statlander's just way too big and powerful for this to work. Statlander grabs Velvet, instantly goes for a power slam right onto the floor, and ends up hitting Velvet later on in the match and pretty much knees her out of the ring. This was a vicious match, both ladies trading some intense blows back and forth. Statlander picks up the win. Up next, this was followed by Kiera Hogan and Jade Cargill trying to go in and jump Statlander after the match. Jade goes for the hump kick, and Anna Jay comes out to make the save, but now she's getting crushed by the baddie section, leading to Athena coming out to back both ladies up, but she gets stopped by the refs, which was kind of interesting. Obviously, they're still teasing, looks like a trios match between all 6 women. I can't wait to see it. I just wonder when they're going to give it to us, if not at Forbidden Door, maybe at perhaps the Blood and Guts show that we have coming up in a couple of weeks. Up next, we have a hype package between Miro and All Ego Ethan Page. Lexi is interviewing Ethan Page backstage. Lets Miro know that you will pray to me, with Miro's gimmick being that of the Redeemer. Prays to his God, is looking to do everything for his God. We finally get the main event, first starting with a backstage segment with Will Ospreay and Aussie Open jaw-jacking back and forth with the team of FTR and Trent Beretta. This is almost some multiversal craziness here. We have one of the top teams in AEW, if not the top team. They are the top guys in FTR and Trent Beretta, with Will Ospreay, the IWGP United States Champion, and Aussie Open on the same screen, same time. This was a tremendous back and forth match. All 6 men at the absolute top of their game. If these are just teases of what we're going to be getting at Forbidden Door, and it's going to be amazing. Surprisingly, Trent picks up the win. I'll be honest, I thought Aussie Open and Will Ospreay were going to take this one. We'll see where it goes. It looks like they're building up to some bigger match. Perhaps at Forbidden Door could be a multi-man match, could be singles match. They really can go so many ways with this. And that was it for this double header episode. And I do thank you all for listening. Please follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Talking Smarks. We post regularly. I live tweet AEW Dynamite, AEW Rampage, the AEW pay-per-views as well. The plan is to live tweet during Forbidden Door. I absolutely cannot miss that show. I thank you all for listening. You all have a great rest of your day.